Bleh. Are you coming all the way from New Zealand or from England right now?
From New Zealand.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. It's
Nice.
nighttime over here.
Oh, so it's like the future. All
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's so cool. So where in New Zealand are you from?
From Wellington, the capital.
Okay, the capital. The
Um,
capital.
yeah. But I'm currently in this tiny place called Carterton, which is in the middle of nowhere. It's about an hour and a half from Wellington, but there's nothing really around it. I'm house sitting for some friends.
Wow.
So there's nothing around me. It's great.
Are you okay, so now first of all, I have always wanted to go to New Zealand. It's like on my
Yeah.
top bucket list places because it's like I don't know, it seems like another world. That's what it seems like to me. From New York at least. That's what it seems like. Um where in relation are you to where Peter Jackson made his original, not the Lord of the Ring films? I know that's what everybody asks
Okay.
about. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the movies before Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
The
Well,
when he
which ones? The
Meet the Feebles, Bad Taste, Dead
Yeah.
Alive, aka Brain Dead. He made all down
Oh,
there in New Zealand, and that to
yeah.
me, that's like where that's the pilgrimage I want to make. I want to go to that place, wherever that
Yeah.
is. So,
I honestly don't know, but I feel like Wellington's where he did do a lot of stuff, so there's probably some stuff there. But I haven't actually seen any of those older films, so
oh, I
I don't know.
highly recommend you. Well, I don't know. Do you like campy cult horror type movies, or is that not really your
See, it's not
bag?
really up my alley. So,
Okay,
but
I
I
then
mean, I definitely could.
don't
Yeah.
recommend it. Then I don't
Yeah.
recommend it.
Okay. Great.
You know, it's funny. The last time I had tried to have someone in New Zealand on my show, and it did not
Mm,
work because the distance, the lag was too insane. And somehow this
well,
is actually working. I'm amazed. This is
yeah.
cool.
Me too.
This is cool. This is cool. All right. Have you tried to do stuff? Have you tried to do stuff and like sometimes there's like a weird like whatever.
On the internet.
Yeah.
Well, no, but sometimes we get news, way earlier, or like news is a weird thing. They'll say like this happened on this
Explain.
date, or like if something happened, um, Thursday afternoon, or in the US. I'm going to get this wrong because time zones are so tricky.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
will have been at a totally different time for us, and obviously there's like
Sure.
like weird yeah events and like deadlines and things are really obviously different.
So
I
Ingrid,
don't
what
know.
kind of no, that makes sense. I get it. I get it. What kind of movies do you like, Ingrid? If you're not into the campy horror stuff, what's your bag?
I thought this was a music show. Is this something? I'm more of I guess I prefer drama, kind of a character drama
Okay,
kind of stuff.
that's cool.
Yeah. Um, what off the top of my head? I don't know, but I did like. I'm just thinking of the ones I watched on the plane on the way back and stuff. I saw Spielberg's most recent one, the Fablemans.
Oh, I haven't seen
That
that.
Yeah,
Haven't seen
yeah, that was all right. Not his best, but I enjoyed a lot of that. Yeah, big Spielberg fan. But otherwise, yeah, I guess not the genre. I'm not a massive genre person, but genre always seems to refer to horror for some reason. I'm like, what are the other,
Yeah,
or
well,
or westerns, or
genre can be like a genre can be, yeah, it's tinged towards like sci-fi, horror, cult movies, westerns, anything that's not like drama obviously wouldn't be genre. I don't know.
yeah,
It's
it's too
um
broad. Yes.
so what is it like? But New Zealand again, it's a very sort of what's the word? It's like it's encapsulated. It's very, it's it's obviously global, it's globally connected, but at the same time, it's kind of like its own place. Like when music comes through, it's from other places, it's sort of a big deal because it's very hard to get down there sometimes. Am I correct on that in saying that?
Yeah. And sometimes people will only come to Auckland. You know, a lot of big acts just do Auckland, so everyone has to go up to Auckland, and there's a massive, queue. And recently we had flooding, and they had to cancel Elton John's event. You know, like everyone was in Auckland, and then couldn't go and see him. So yeah, I guess it is a big deal, but we are used to big acts coming here now more. Um, but it's funny because it's even just from the big towns to the small towns. Like we once played a gig actually in this small town that I'm in now, and people just couldn't believe that we'd stopped to play in this small town. It was like, but it was the best gig we'd ever played. We just played for free, and like all these people came, and it was great. But there's a very big distinction between the kind of connected cities, especially Auckland, and then the rest
Sure.
of the country. Yeah, I guess it's like that in a lot of places.
Yeah, no, for sure. But that's interesting. So in a way, there's
Mhm.
almost like a local tourism sort of economy based around bands that are, routing through New Zealand, because if they're going to be in this, they're playing this one place. And you would think
Mhm.
if you travel that far that maybe you would hit a couple other markets, but they're playing
Right.
this one market, and everybody, if you want to see, if you want to go see Elton John, you better
Mm,
get your butt down to Auckland
mm,
and,
mm.
make it happen, because otherwise that's it. Which must be, I can imagine that being frustrating. I would find that frustrating from a little.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't,
I guess
I
we're just
personally,
used to it, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it must not
And I think
be.
we travel quite a lot as a country. This is just kind of
Yeah.
my observation. I don't know if it's how true it is, but I feel like we're very quick to jump in the car and go someplace or to hop on a plane. There are a lot of domestic flights for a small, for a small place. It's
Yeah.
quite amazing how many, how often there are flights to different places. And so I think we're quite a big kind of, traveling within the nation kind of people. Yeah.
So what does that do? So how does that inform like local music and like music scenes, little music scenes and
Yeah.
stuff within the country? Because, again, this is from my New York American POV. Like, like I think of, Australia is really big. And then New Zealand is relatively, I mean, I really should just Google this and just find out. New Zealand is comparatively smaller, but at the same time, like tell me about how does local music work down there? Like are there a lot of like rich, vibrant like music scenes within New Zealand as a result of that?
Um, yes. Well, it's a small country, but it's also very long. It's as long, I think, as France, or even longer. It takes a really long time to get from the top to the bottom.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
yeah. So, um, yeah, I'd say there are quite a lot of I'd call like underground or like grassroots scenes. A lot in Wellington for sure. A lot in Auckland. Quite a bit in Dunedin, which is you probably know the classic Dunedin sound where that came from in the 80s.
I
The
you have
flying Hell,
to
the flying Hell stuff. No,
no wait. Okay, give me an example of some bands and songs that I might know.
like the Chills and the Clean, the Bats. I think they were maybe more popular in California. I think
Okay.
on the
Okay.
West Coast, yeah.
Hmm.
But they all came out of the student city in the 80s, just from house parties.
Okay. So that
And
was like
yeah,
its own music scene.
yeah, exactly in the 80s.
Cool.
And now it's less of it now. Now it's more like say Auckland and Wellington. It's more of a kind of a punk, yeah, a bit of punk DIY and kind of shoegaze, stuff going on, especially
Uh,
in Wellington.
do you like the
Yeah.
Ravenettes as much as I like the Ravenettes? You know the
The
Ravenettes?
rain. No, I don't.
Oh man. Well, first, before I get there for a
Okay.
second, All right. So for anybody who is not geographically, who it might be geographically challenged as me, or wants a scale comparison of what we were just talking about, here now it's suddenly put into perfect proportion. New Zealand pretty much stretches from the tip of Pennsylvania all the way down to where Louisiana is. So it is from the north to the south of the United States. So it's about 1,500-ish miles long. Right. You guys are on the metric system too. So that's like, it's like,
Yeah,
I'm trying to like, it's weird. It's hard to like sort of quantify it. So
yeah.
it is indeed, as you say, it is indeed a very long country. If you think about it,
Mm.
as at least as I
Yeah.
relate distance in the United States, which gives me a better understanding. But the Ravenettes are a fantastic band. They are Danish. It's just Soon and Sharon Fu, and they play double guitars, or they play guitar or bass, or
Oh,
they play,
fun.
yeah, they play whatever. And the name comes from Ravon and the Ronettes. So
Yeah, I
Ravenettes.
was wondering if there was a Ronettes
Yeah, it's a
connection. Yeah,
Ravenettes, and
yeah.
their music, their first couple of albums they only recorded in B flat, and then their second record was in B major.
Wow.
And they are this beautiful, they lock their voices, angelic voices, and
Mm.
their music is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's shoegaze meets surf rock with just not even soaked. Like when you think about a tiramisu, it's soaked in rum, right? Isn't tiramisu,
Yeah,
it's soaked in rum? This is
yeah.
soaked in reverb.
Okay, yeah.
It's soaked in reverb. It's just drenched in the most wonderful way. So I cannot recommend enough. When you get off this thing, go check out the Ravenettes. I've been seeing them play. I mean, they've been on hiatus for a while, but man, I first saw them in 2004, like life changing. I saw them every chance I could until about 2013, 14. That was the last time. And
Wow.
then they kind of, yeah, but check them out. Check them out. So you
Yeah, I
said,
will. I've put them on my Spotify. Yep.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about I've listened to your music. Tell me from your perspective what, because we do the same thing. I'm a filmmaker, and
Mm.
when I want to tell somebody about my movie, I have to think of a sentence that
Yep.
perfectly surmises what my movie is in a single sentence, because like it's like that 30-second sentence, da 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 da, so that people can easily digest what it is that I am, what it is that you are, what is that in a sentence like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it hard, obviously, for obvious reasons, and because it's so hard to get distance from what I'm, yeah, trying to do. But well, for me, there are two things. I call it the genre. I'd call it a bluesy punk rock. I'd say there's a lot of kind of classic and punk rock infused with blues kind of elements and riffs. And someone, actually a journalist, called it ZZ Top fronted by Joan Jett, which I thought was a great compliment, and I
Wow, that
think
very
encapsulates
flattering.
some. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's more about the feeling of it. It encapsulates that kind of that ZZ Top like classic kind of sound, especially the kind of first half of the album, and then yeah, the kind of energy and and spit of Joan Jett, hopefully. Yeah.
Do you, do you record in like a studio, or are you more like DIY on the computer, like doing my own studio sort of thing? You mentioned how things are kind of, where how did you come about your latest release?
The latest album was all done in a studio in Wellington, a professional studio where a lot of we don't have that many studios, so it's one of the ones
Yeah.
where a lot of our music gets made. Recorded by Toby Lloyd, who's an amazing producer here. So yeah, whereas our first album was done in a garage with my mate Ollie, who we just sourced all the gear and he just hooked
Ollie.
everything up. Yeah, and he did an
Yeah.
amazing job. It was so cool.
I bet.
But yeah, I loved it, but I also wanted to try the other side of things. Yeah.
So now what's interesting, and again, I wonder how New Zealand gets thrown, the regionality of where you're from gets thrown into the mix. It's fascinating to me because, I did,
Mm.
like I said, we had oh God, Nigel from the band Horror. You know the band Horror Story down there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, not very well, but
Nigel,
yeah.
who listens to the channel, he's from New Zealand and he has a band called Horror Story. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've heard a little bit, like my only grasp of New Zealand's music scene comes from what I've heard him tell me and whatnot. So it's very interesting to hear from you, sort of like it's a different perspective within
Yeah.
this sort of regional place. But how, so what is it, does it make sense for you to be down there? Does it make sense to be signed to a label, or is it better to be
Mm,
more independent minded? And
yeah.
where do you guys currently operate?
Yeah, well, we're independent, because we've got a distribution company based in London who our manager kind of signed us to. Our manager works with them, so it's a much I prefer it that way because it allows us a lot more freedom, and it's we're not signing, any contract. We're not signing our life away and all that. But it is a bit harder because of, having to find more money and all that. Like, so here we don't have the same record label game that you do in the States. It's definitely not. There's some people can get deals. Obviously Lord and people, go on to get big deals, but it's not. Yeah, on a smaller local way. Apart from maybe Flying Nun, most people don't have record labels, so a lot of it is self-funded. A lot of it is done, at least the people who I've kind of grown up around and who are making music now and all that. A lot of it's done themselves, like they're incredible producers as well, or know people who are, and people help each other out. But it's hard because because we're a small country. It is quite hard to make a living off of it, and so it's quite hard
Oh
to
yeah.
then find money to. I know it's the same. I'm sure it's the same in the States. But I was in London, and met this person who is in a band. They're doing really well, but they're not like crazy famous or anything. But she could just live off that, play music every day. And I was like, man, how do you do that in this country? Like, that's unheard of for us. It's very, even some of our top artists are still, in a lot of debt, and have actually come out saying like, look, I won all these awards, but I'm still 40K in debt because, of how we don't really value artists and all that. Anyway, I'm straying from your original question. It's big, yeah,
No,
big
I don't
topic,
think you're
but
not straying at all.
there's
It's
so
very, yeah. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. There's so much about it, and on the whole, I feel like also because we're so far and tiny, we tend to kind of not have much confidence, not value ourselves as much as we possibly could, um, in terms of the work we do, and kind of fighting for slightly better, rights, I guess, or just kind of situations.
Yeah, no, totally get it.
Mm.
I mean, that's the weird thing, like, and that's why I don't know, I've come to the realization, again, I can only speak from the film side of things. Uh, but I just think in general, at this point in time, with technology being the way that it is, um, and with the amount of content that is out there, in a way, it is kind of a democratic slash to quote Larry the Wolf from the band Manimals, who was recently on the channel. It's kind of uh it's a he said meritocracy, no,
Meritocracy.
yeah, there's a meritocracy in that kind of way, where it's like, you know if you're doing something interesting, if you got a good sound, if you're doing something interesting, people are going to gravitate towards interesting shit, and it will rise up. The cream will rise up above all the rest. And, combined with that, one should somehow be in much control of their stuff as they can, because it's like with technology, with the ability, your website, and digital distribution is so easy these days with things like DistroKid and like, just all these services that you can use the internet as your label. It's like you don't need it. It's like the traditional system doesn't work in the same way. And I've heard the pushback from that also being, well, you need a label is in fact a literal label. It's a verification process. It bona fides you in a way where when you're trying to go out to different places and different markets and different avenues, it vets you in a way that the internet cannot. But that's where, and then the flip side of that is meritocracy speaking.
Yeah.
We got this many people listening. We have this many, like you're showing. So it's like an interesting sort of push and pull that we have these days. Because back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s, you had to pay serious money. You had to go to a studio because the standards were different, right? Like you couldn't just go, you couldn't have Ollie record you in the garage and put out your thing. It's like it had to be a studio demo that you would then bring to a record label. The record label will go, okay, here's a contract, make an album. Then you got to get the A&R guy. You're racking up serious debt because it's a record label is like a bank that you're lending money against royalties. And it's like you're hoping to push through because radio, the standards for radio, which was the main means of distribution, was different. And now all of that is sort of not the same anymore. It's all gone. It's all broken down.
Yeah.
So,
and I totally agree. And I think there is like massive advantages for the internet, of course, obviously. But I also think that there is money involved as well. It's not only a meritocracy. Like there are massive financial factors at play who do like control a lot of the advertising and what you see and all that. So I think there's so much noise in that space that like, I know a few people like around me who I think should be, I genuinely think should be touring internationally. It should be incredible, but because they're not particularly great at doing, like, they've got incredible content online, but they don't have the money to push it, because you can literally buy views, on YouTube. You can literally put money into it and see it go up. So, and they're not that good at like building relationships with people online. They're great at what they do and the content, but they're not great at, that kind of all that PR building stuff. And so they're not where, I think they should be if it was a meritocracy. And of course, that's just my point of view, but also a lot of people have said that, about these artists. And I do find it sad as well as the flip side, that there is so much out there and that sometimes I think some people do get lost in it, and don't get the recognition they deserve. So it's, I don't know, it's, double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. What is your personal, so you are a front person, and you sing. Do you also play guitar or any other instruments? And tell me about what's your writing process like? What do you personally do? How do you approach an idea? Do you start with an idea? Do you start with a lyric? Do you start with a melody? Or is it different every time? How does it work for you?
So I'm the front person. Songwriter, singer, and I play the guitar. In the album, I play mostly rhythm, apart from a couple of solos in it. I've been aiming to do more lead stuff. And yeah, so there's songwriting process. It depends. It totally depends on the song. Like I wish there was a formula that worked for every song, but it's so annoying that I start trying to, you know, implement it something that worked really well into the next song, and all of a sudden it doesn't want to, fit that, and I'm like, oh, here's another one. I have to, dig deep again and find another what this song wants, which is something completely different, or different process. But like what I found is, obviously keeping a notebook, keeping phone recordings is the basis, the basis of it. It's like ideas will just come whenever, and just constantly writing them down or constantly recording them into my phone. And then it's very much a piecing together of bits and just finding what wants to go together. Because sometimes they're very fragmented, sometimes just singing a riff into the
Sure,
phone,
sure.
or sometimes it's a whole chord progression and stuff, but sometimes it's just tiny bits, and it's trying to really go through and listen to how everything wants to come together. Um, but I'm starting writing on the next album, and I'm hoping to just play around a bit more with that process and just be a bit more intentional, because in the past it's just happened kind of just as is. I haven't really, it's been hard work, but I haven't really, I never sat down and I was like, okay, now I'm going to write an album. It was always just like
Got
going
a group of songs. There's another group of songs.
yeah,
It's ready to
yeah.
go.
So
Are
yeah,
you, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's all. That's
No.
all.
So are you the type of person where you keep you record a bunch of songs and then pick, the ones that thematically work best for the work and really put that out? I noticed you have your new album is 9 songs at 31 minutes, which is a very good, I think, short. I think moving away
Mm.
from longer LP style album, whatever you want to call it, is a good thing in this day and age. And having something shorter and more digestible makes it, it's easier to consume.
Mm.
Um, is that intentional? Like, do you keep stuff banked, or is it like this is all I got, loaned it into a cannon and catapulted it out?
No, that was mostly intentional. I definitely didn't want it to be too long. Because that's how I listen to albums, about half an hour in. It's like, if it's,
Yeah.
it pretty much, I tend to zone out unless, I have to go back and re-listen to it. So I thought half an hour is quite good. And no, there are a few songs that I've got that we didn't record, but that wasn't because I just knew they weren't going to fit on the album. So I
Sure.
very early on, I kind of realized what the album was about or what I wanted to make it about. And so then because the songs were already tending towards that, most of them were fitting in that theme. And so then I think I just consciously kept directing my writing towards that till till there were 9 or 10 songs. Um, but then there are a whole bunch of other ones that I've written that I just knew were not for this. And
Right.
we didn't even record them because there's no point. We didn't have enough time or money to record extra ones. So I knew going in, I knew it was going to be these 9 songs, and just recorded those.
No,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. So, all right. So, where do you like give me, how about this? Give me you have you hop on an airplane and you are on your way back to England for some meetings. You got there's a big banner gig happening and for Ingrid and the defectors, ministers, sorry. I don't know. There's another band called Ingrid and the Defectors. That's why I've got.
No way.
Yes, there is. There's a
Oh,
band in New
yes.
York called Ingrid, and it just slipped my mind. Ingrid and the
That's
Ministers.
okay.
My apologies. Um, you're flying on the airplane, and I want to make this non-traumatic because it's a very real thing, but it's just this is my scenario. There's gentle turbulence in the plane. How about that? It's not It's not violent turbulence. It's not a traumatic thing. The plane is gradually gliding into the water, and you are about to be stuck on a desert island. You get in the raft. There's a raft. You get out of the raft. You get into the raft. You got plenty of water. In fact, you don't just have water. You also have what, Ingrid, what's your favorite thing to drink? Like, what is your favorite beverage?
Oh, oh, probably coffee, to be
Okay,
honest.
yeah. Cheers. I got
Yeah.
coffee. Do they say okay? What is the vernacular down there? Is it cheers or is it like is there something more New Zealandish that I'm not? Again, forgive my ignorance.
That's okay.
What is the vernacular down there for
Yeah,
cheers?
it's totally
Cheers.
cheers. It's
Oh, it is
totally cheers.
cheers.
We say cheers all the time. And
Cheers.
I just didn't realize till now that how American it is. Yeah. That's
What?
what you
Cheer? We
yeah,
hold on. Cheers for you guys is like thank you or like.
yeah.
But for us, cheers is literally only if you raise your drink
Mm,
to cheer. Cheers.
mm,
Like in Germany, it's Probst, and I think Russia
yeah.
is Spasibo. No, not Spasibo. Is it Spasibo? I don't
Oh,
know.
no, it's oh, I know.
Nostrovia. Nostrovia.
Yeah, Strovia. Yeah, yeah,
Nostrovia. Yeah. So it's like, and yeah, so cheers. In any case, okay, so you got some coffee.
yeah.
And all right, what about like snack foods? What's your favorite snack foods?
Oh, killing me. Oh, chocolate. Definitely. Coffee and
Oh,
chocolate. Yeah, yeah,
I bet you got some good Cadbury style chocolate out
yeah.
there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad. That's awesome. All right, so you got some Cadbury, you got some coffee, some snacks, you got plenty of provisions. So this is a survival scenario, but it's also like the cushiest survival scenario. It's like
Mm,
it's not that bad. You are the only one left, and you are in your rubber raft. You get to an island, but listen, there's plenty of fresh water that you have like one of those cool emergency tents that comes with an emergency record player. It's in like one of those weird plastic. It's like a very utilitarian, compacted sort of record player
I love
that,
that.
emergency because you need emergency music in an emergency
Mm,
situation
mm, mm.
with your emergency coffee. You got a lighter. Like you don't even have to worry. You don't have to do Castaway. It's not, you don't have to be Tom Hanks,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to make fire and whatnot. That's a good drama. That's a good drama. You
Yeah.
don't have to be you are just so it's a very chill sort of desert island that you were stranded on. You got
Mm,
all your favorite things. Now, you also happened on this trip when you were going to England because you were going to meet some friends who maybe you can get them through the internet and you've been talking back and forth and you wanted to show them your favorite records, but now you've been slightly delayed. You've got your homing beacon device. It's not like yellow. Have you seen Yellow Jackets on? It's a
no.
great
Oh,
series. You heard about it?
yeah. What, the French ones?
No, no, not the French one. I don't know what's the French
Uh,
ones. What's the French Yellow
the
Jackets?
the oh well, it's not a series. They're just the protesters at the moment,
Oh
just
no.
tearing up Paris.
Oh shit. No, I'm not. They're called the Yellow Jackets.
They call the yellow vests, probably.
Oh, the yellow
Or
vest.
the
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Detour. Let's detour from our
Anyway,
scenario for
yeah.
1 minute because I'm curious to know what is happening in France that they are protesting with yellow
Oh well,
vests.
I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but they were doing it every Saturday for quite a while.
Oh,
And well, France is they're always protesting. I think they were protesting against the president and
that's been
inequality.
happening for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
for
think it
sure.
was more of that.
Okay, so to get back to my scenario, so you have like, the yellow, you have a nice yellow life jacket.
Cool.
Oh, no, no, that's not what it is. I was saying Yellow Jackets is a series, it's like a Lord of the Flies meets
Okay.
Now and Then with Christina Ricci and
Oh, great.
Juliette Lewis. Yeah, great show.
Yeah.
And it's like it takes place in the 90s and now, and it's like, it's Lord of the Flies with a little bit of cannibalism, a little bit of survival, like all this crazy stuff. But this is not a Yellow Jacket situation. This is
Mm,
you have the transponder and you're waiting to be rescued. So now you got to kill some time. You brought your
mm.
records for your friends, so you still have them. What are your top 5 desert island records that you're
Mm.
playing on your desert island while you're drinking your coffee, while you're eating some Cadbury chocolate in front of the fire.
Yeah.
Mind you, there's some palm trees, there's fresh water streams, there's like little crabs that are on the beach with like little pinchers. Everything's cool, everything's chill, and you just got to listen to the music until they arrive. You got your 5 desert albums. And here's the thing, that's the one part of the problem, is that
Mm.
your 5 album, that's all you have is 5 albums. And
Mm.
it might take 48 to 72 to maybe even a week to rescue you.
Well,
So
yeah,
what
it's a
can
tricky
you
thing
listen
because
to
you might,
over and over?
yeah, because then, because you might, some of my favorite albums of all time, I might be a bit sick of listening to already, or I've
Oh
listened to them
no.
so many times.
So then wait. So they're not, those are your favorite records of all time. Those are not
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah,
Distinction,
exactly.
distinction.
Yeah,
If it's a desert record, it's a record that you can listen to over and over again, which
yeah,
may not be your favorite record that you are sick of listening to, but you love it because it's your favorite record. So to clarify
yeah.
here, to clarify further,
Mm.
your desert records are records that you can listen to when the record ends, you can put it back on and start it over again.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have stalled enough to let you think about that, and go
Yeah,
right ahead.
totally.
Go
I was
ahead.
like, it's a
Take it away.
technique to
Take
give
it
me
away.
time.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I think, oh well, because all I could think of was my favorite ones. But I think um, I definitely put one of my favorites in there. It's classic Horses, Patti Smith
Okay.
record, which is just that
Yeah.
yeah. I never actually get bored of that, and it just puts me in the frame of mind for dealing with crap. So I feel like I have
Okay.
to deal with a lot of crap, and that would give
Sure.
me good energy. I've actually been getting into Lark and Poe a lot recently.
Oh,
Do you
I
know
know
them?
Lark. Yeah. Yeah. You know how
Yeah,
I know them? Crazy. I know with the steel lap guitar.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I know them because of Facebook.
Oh,
Yeah,
Facebook told
they just popped up because they were doing, because you know why? Because they were doing videos on Facebook of just
you.
covering songs. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I like them. They're cool. And
yeah,
I just started following them because of that. I just like seeing their videos pop up where they were doing stuff. And now they
yeah,
are, yeah, they're getting like big. They're like kind of
yeah.
exploding. Very
Yeah,
cool.
they're
Okay.
great. They came to New Zealand recently, and I went to their gig,
Oh,
and it was awesome. Yeah. Um, so their most recent album, Blood Harmony, I've just been listening to, and I'm definitely not sick of yet. So I feel like that would last a few days,
okay.
till I got
Okay.
it for sure. Um, then I think I'd Chula Homer by is that how you pronounce it? The Black Keys one. The covers of Junior Kimbrough, the old blues guy.
Black Keys. That's the garage punk band, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm friends with one of
blues.
those guys on Facebook.
Oh,
What's
cool.
his face? Cole, right? He's one
No,
of the
Dan.
guys. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the Black Lips. There's the Black
No,
Keys
I
and the
think
Black
Black.
Lips.
Yeah, this is Black Keys.
Black Keys. Okay, I'm looking them up. Yeah, no, this is a different band.
Yeah,
But yes, I know who they are, but different. Yeah. There's
yeah,
Dan and Patrick. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah. So they're great. You can listen to them, but they can also be background stuff. So I feel like that would keep
Yeah.
me in a good kind of working,
Mm-hmm.
flow for
Mm-hmm.
the
Sure.
work I got to do to stay alive. Um,
Eat coffee and drink coffee and eat chocolate.
yeah, really hard work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
That's 3.
oh,
You're at 3. I need 2 more.
3.
Yeah.
Then I think I'd probably do something for the evening. I'd do a Laura Marling one. I'd do Once I Was an Eagle. Do you know Laura
Okay.
Marling?
No, not familiar.
Uh, English kind of, yeah, I guess folky, but incredible singer-songwriter. She's one of the first people, the reasons I wanted to play guitar was when I
Oh
heard
wow.
her.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So before I got into rock, that's when I was kind of strumming
Mm-hmm.
the acoustic. Um, and then Actually, yeah, I've got this. A friend gave me Jimi Hendrix blues, like blues covers. He does. It's just
Oh,
it's called Jimi Hendrix Sings Blues or something, and it's got all these different, recordings, various. Like some of them are quite bad, and like some of them are
sure.
great, and it's yeah, quite a cool mix. And I've been wanting to listen to that a lot more and really dig into that. So that would be my like, what's he doing? Like, what's that lick he's playing there? What's a how do I do that kind of one?
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support. Great customer service and so much more. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
You know what's funny? You know what they call that? That's like what Henry Rollins, affectionately is like just a voracious consumer of music. You know, Henry Rollins and Black Flag and stuff.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
he said sometimes he says that some of the music that he listens to, and obviously I don't know if he would include in his POV, it may not be something like Jimi Hendrix, but just the idea of there are certain things that you consume that are like your veggies. You know, there's junk food and then there's veggies, and like to like that it's good for either culture or just like to increase your vocabulary, like things that you're consuming, art that is being consumed that's not like, oh, this is like a comfort food, like a comfort blanket that I'm wrapping myself in or whatever, that sort of thing. I feel the same way about films too. Like sometimes I'll go to a film, whatever it is, maybe it's something really like artsy fartsy or pretentious, particularly, or I'm like, this is not like a populist entertainment. This isn't like the tentpole Marvel movie. This is like something, great example. I took a friend to go see Greg Araki's The Doom Generation, which just got re-released, which was so cool to see on the big screen. It was the 4K remaster director's cut. And for him, he did not like it. He felt it did not have a plot. And it didn't really have a plot. It's more thematic. They're like it's more about the themes than it is about the actual plot driving the story and the message that is being delivered. And all art in some way, shape, or form is delivering some kind of message, whether it is political or social or angsty or what may have you. Even it's funny, you were talking about songwriting earlier, and like how it's hard, and that in the sense that like you I'm sorry, I don't want to misquote you. You were saying that you wish it was more formulaic. What would you
Yeah.
sometimes that you wish it was more formulaic? And when you said that, it made me think of John Lennon, who from time to time would talk about the creative process in his writing, or in biographers talk about his creative process, because here's a guy who was writing under the most extreme pressure you could imagine. Not only were they to deliver 2 LPs every year, but they also had to write a single, an A side and a B side quarterly every year, and to pull from that well creatively in such a vacuum of pressurized, like, you need to deliver this creatively. He got to a place where he found a way to formulaically write, but at the same time, like, it turned into a faucet for him because he had done it for so long. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating, in the sense that like that you can sort of pull in that kind of way from yourself, whether you're saying something that you know, and he's always said that those early songs were just like about nothing, but that's not true. I think they were about
Mm,
like love, I guess, you
mm,
know, on some
mm.
level. Um, but yeah, that's, I don't know
Yeah,
where I was
I
going
guess.
with that. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know. Well, I guess the better you get, the better you get at the craft, then the more, the more ability you have to know. I think, yeah, maybe what he was meaning is you just know how you know how the parts of the song fit together.
Yeah, but it becomes
How do they?
formulaic too. Like it gets a little
Yeah,
formulaic. It's not
yeah,
like
yeah,
becomes cookie cutter. It's not you
yeah.
know, maybe it's slightly not dishonest would be the word, but like it's not as genuine because
Mm,
it's like I have to produce this thing. It's not like
mm,
I don't feel this in my heart. And isn't that the weird thing about art and commerce? That's where it intersects.
mm,
Like I have to produce this thing right now. It has to come from me right
mm.
now because that's what the demand is of me. And
Yeah,
then at the same time, I don't feel it in my heart, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Weird.
I think a lot about that. Especially as it is so hard to make a living in New Zealand off of
Mm,
it, unless you're kind of doing multiple things and then you're kind of exhausting yourself
diversifying.
doing, in these different disciplines, trying to freelance everything at the same time. Um, and, because I really want to be able to live off it, but at the same time, what it takes,
Yeah.
to do that is quite, is interesting. And yeah, I don't have any answers.
Sure.
I personally think essentially like art is not really doesn't function very well in a capitalist society that, is just trying to, quantify it. I just don't think it works like that. I think some people have, it has worked for some people, but I think for the most artists and, the art community who are practicing, it's very difficult
You know
and
what's
it kind of
interesting?
contradicts itself. Yeah.
You know what's interesting too? And again, maybe this is like this could be again, I'm speaking from a place of being in America and our system, so it might
Mm-hmm.
vary and different from your system, obviously. And
Yeah.
again,
Oh, we're quite similar, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to an extent, I mean, it's weird because even though you're all the way east, you're technically also, I mean, it is still like Western, it would fall under Western
Mm.
culture, right? Like New
Yeah.
Zealand falls under Western culture. So on that level, it's similar. But this idea of like, you know, the baby boomer generation is kind of like just, work your whole life until you're 65 and then retire and then just, do nothing until you die. And it's like I feel like on some level, like what if there are, there's some people that they just don't want to do that. They don't want to be in that
Mm.
system. They would
Mm.
rather, you know, they would rather be creative with their
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
you know.
And that still is work depending on how you look at it. Like
No, totally, totally,
I mean, obviously
totally.
I know you don't mean it's not, but like when you were saying that, I was just thinking like I want to work really, really hard, but I only want to do it for myself and in this,
Yes, no, yes, you're
this
so
way.
right. Yes. And that's
And
how I feel. That is how I feel.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I think our, you know, generation definitely is not, everyone around me I know is just like not doing this
Fuck
and doing,
that.
yeah. Which is fantastic. But I don't know how it's, once we kind of, hit middle age and we're like, oh, still don't have a house and don't,
Yeah, but I
don't know
mean,
what we're
that's
gonna
not,
do.
listen, yeah, but you want to know something that's also, I generally don't get too political on my channel, but like,
Mm,
I also don't think that's necessarily, you know, I don't think that's our fault per se, because
no.
I think that the system was sort of galvanized after World War II, like this sort of like
Mm,
you can't call it, it's not, I wouldn't say that it was a perfect system, but it was a system where many people could sort of benefit from generational wealth and whatever, all this stuff. And it got so thrown out of whack. And then that system was then imparted on generations after it, where that
mm,
system no longer existed or wasn't real anymore or wasn't sustainable anymore, sending kids to college instead of trade school where they would actually stand a chance at being being artistic and then maybe like having a trade where you're like a plumber or like an electrician in a union making $100,000 per year, you know, as opposed to going to a 4-year school, you know, chasing an English degree that won't even get you in the door at whatever fucking, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
That's what I did.
you know, it's just, it turns, but it
Yeah.
like, it's so fucked,
Yeah.
dude. It's just, it's fucked. And
Yeah.
it's like, and so it's like, you know, you're in like a bubble of like what this system is. And it's like, you can either like kind of wake up from it and be like, wow, this is fucking stupid. Like, I'm just going to live my life how I want to live my life and do the best I can and not worry about like these sort of generational, and I'm talking in such grossly generalized, I mean, because you're in New Zealand and I'm in America, we have to say globalist or globally Western global. I don't know if I'm making this word up, a globalized Western mentality of like, work really hard at your day job until you're 65 where you can retire and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then go and keel over, you know, after, you know, and retire. It's like, it's just stupid, man. It's freaking stupid. That's why it's like, you just do what you want to do and like chase, you know, chase your dreams, chase art, chase, you know, and yes, you know, being creative is a job. And we've also, I feel like culturally on a variety of different levels, art and creativity has been relegated to not work. It's like recreational, and it's not right because it is work. You're absolutely right. It is work. So
well, but yeah, I think it's both. It should be available for anyone who wants, you know, to do it just for fun, and then, but it should also be regarded as a full profession for those who think who feel drawn to it. But yeah, I think New Zealand's, I think we're similar. Like our economy is kind of a neoliberal economy, and so we're kind of like the States a couple hundred years ago. That's kind of what maybe not 200 years, but it's a very young kind of neoliberal country, and there are changes that are trying to be, you know, made and all that, but overall that's how we kind of function. And the housing market is property market is the way you get rich here, and, you know, and small businesses. And
oh really? Tell me about that. Why is that? Because land is so I guess, you know, scarce out there, you know, in the sense of like, I don't know, like it's, you know, why particularly that? Explain to me.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I just know that, well, it hasn't been taxed for a long time, like your assets.
Really?
At the moment, there's a huge debate. Like literally today, the Green Party, the Environmental Party came out saying we want to tax the rich more. We want to have a wealth tax because in New Zealand, you can own as many houses and buildings as you want, and I believe not get taxed on that. On that. So that's been a massive, you know, that's been the reason why people go into property management, and like landlords
fucking landlords
gone really rich. And everyone aspires to this, but like no, to the being on the property ladder. But the reality is no one can, at least in my generation, it's very rare that we can now afford it and get on there, because the prices have gone through, you know, through the roof.
It's fucked. It's totally fucked.
So you go now.
Tell me the name Ingrid and the Ministers. What is the minister? What is the Ministers about? Why the Ministers particularly? Just
well, it was the better of two names that I had. I had another really, really bad name for the band, which I guess I have to say now, because otherwise
yes, you have to tell me what it is.
It was so bad. It was Cashmere for Cows. Don't know why.
Wait, say that again.
Don't know what. No, Cashmere for Cows.
Cashmere for Cows. I actually really like that. Really? No, yes. And okay, God. I think that whatever your next record is needs to be called that.
Called Cashmere for Cows.
That rolls off the tongue. That's really interesting. So
I
does
think that was
Ingrid.
the only reason.
Yeah, well, sometimes, are you into the Pixies at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pixies are one of my favorite bands of all time. And,
Mm,
when obviously Frank Black has meaning behind his lyrics, Black
yeah,
Francis, I should say. But when you asked him in interviews in like the late 80s, early 90s, what are
yeah.
your songs about? He'd be like, they're about nothing. I just like the way the words sound when I
Yeah.
sing them. And obviously that was a really sort of snarky, pretentious sort of thing to say, but there is
Mm,
some truth to that. Sometimes you just say, I mean, is that not how you get in a song, like a la la la, or like
yeah,
ooh
yeah,
you like just like whatever, like, or in doo-wop, you have like these weird vocal alliterations that just don't mean anything, but they sound pretty, or they make sense for the song, or it's a form of, it's almost in a weird kind of way, it's like a form of the most primal expression. Like, I'm
yeah.
not actually saying anything, but I am saying something all at the same time. For the Misfits, one of my favorite bands of all time, the
Mm,
Misfits, in every one of their songs, much like the doo-wop songs that they grew up on, that Glenn Danzig grew up on, they say whoa a lot. Whoa,
mm,
whoa, whoa. But you know what's amazing about it? It doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, if you're in the audience and you've never been to a Misfit show, you may not be able to sing the lyrics, but you can sing whoa. And you could put your arm around someone else and go, whoa. Like, you could just start
yeah,
whoaing. It's like
yeah,
this weird sort of, like, anybody can participate sort of thing. So I think that there is something to it. Doesn't have to necessarily mean something. It just has to, it could roll off the tongue. It could sound in a certain way, but you still have to explain to me
yeah.
ministers. What are the ministers? Why the ministers particularly?
Well, why the ministers? I think I was actually watching a lot of Monty Python at the
Ah.
time. I was really into the Ministry of Silly Walks. Well, it's between my dad and me. Like, that's always been a kind of source of fun. Like, we've always imitated the silly
I
walks.
have a great
So
story for you. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So I enjoyed that. I like the double meaning of it, the like political kind of resonance, and the religious as well, because there's something about I'm not religious, but I'm quite fascinated by it. And I think
Mm,
a lot of the music I like, blues and soul and all that, obviously there's a tie, whether it's
huge.
anti-religion or that, like, a lot of American music obviously has a tie to that. And so I think I could sense that that's the direction I wanted to take the music in, was something like that. And I refer to there's a lot of God, religious imagery in a way in some of, especially the first album, I think, or even the second, a bit of reference to it. So that's why. And then, quite like simply, I wanted it to be Ingrid and this, because
Right.
I wanted to hark back to, it is a bit retro, for want of a better word, but it does, like, kind of
No, totally.
yeah,
Because I just wanted to
yeah,
interject real quick.
mm,
Friggin' when Ingrid and the Ministers sounds like the name of the band in some 80s movie
yeah,
where, like, we're going to the gig. We're going to go see Ingrid and the Ministers. Totally works. Totally works, Yeah. In a good
exactly,
way.
yeah,
In a good way. In a good
yeah,
way.
yeah. So because that's the music I love, I'm quite a fan of those eras. So there was that, and then wanted it to be my name, I guess, in there, because I guess, quite simply, I wanted to be the song, my songwriting, songs I write, my band, and I can do it with whoever, at the time is present, whoever feels right to play with. There's been a bit of changeover in the band, and that's kind of been part of it. It's not it hasn't been these are the people that are always going to, be the band, and if someone leaves, then we're gonna
It's
fall
still
apart. It's
Ingrid and the
been,
Ministers
yeah,
because you are Ingrid.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, no, that
And
that works.
that works. Yeah, it's worked great. So, yeah.
Okay. two things. One, so now when I think of Ingrid and the Ministers, I'm going to put a little ... and then I'm going to add of silly walks.
Yeah.
Just in my head, just in my head.
Yeah.
And then funny story about that. Some guy comes up to John Cleese from the sketch, from the Monty Python sketch, Ministry of the Silly Walks. In the street, I'm a big fan. I love Monty Python. I love the Ministry of Silly Walks. Like, it's so nice to meet you or something. And John Cleese, deadpan, is like, get out of my face. Like, leave me alone. Like, I forgot what it was. He was super rude. I'm paraphrasing. Super rude to the guy. Or he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, just, bug her off, that sort of thing. And then as he's walking away, he just tilts back and starts doing in the street. He starts doing the silly walk for the guy. I was like, that is the type of like, what a story. What a story, right? Like, I'm going to act like an asshole and then totally just like do the silly walk and walk off. I thought it was great. No, that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. So what is the plan? Like, what is the plan? Where do you see yourself? Like, what is the, I don't know, like, for instance, a great example, like, for me personally, in my artistic endeavors, I try to set goals of like what I'm trying to seek and do, whether it's, hey, I want to get to 2,000 YouTube subscribers, or I want to have this many videos. I want to have this many clip videos, and like right now, I'm just clipping YouTube videos. Like, these videos that I do, I like clip them up, and then when I don't feel like doing a show, I just have them banked. Or in the sense of like, hey, I'm trying to complete my next feature-length film, and I got to get to the end of that. Do you have any immediate goals right now that you are trying to like break through and like push out and like do? Like, what's on your docket right now for that?
Right now I'm focused on writing the next album. So I've got a few months where I'm really going to lean into that, and it's going to be a really interesting one. Like, artistically, I think I'm going to challenge myself quite a bit on guitar and with just kind of the style and what I want to play and all that. I've got all these hunches and just kind of getting them in shape. So that's my biggest concern, because after that, like, my kind of big dreams are I'd love to go to the States to do I just want to do like a blues, recce tour, like just a tourist. I just want to be a tourist. I've never been. I've only been to LA a couple of times. But I also want to I'd love to be able to gig there eventually. I know it's quite hard to get in and to do all that for non-residents. So I don't know how that would work. But that is kind of a big dream, is to do that and to start playing in more I guess more blues oriented, kind of festivals and things. Probably start in New Zealand, but eventually it'd be nice to do that in Europe as well, and maybe the States. Those are still they're not fully. Haven't got my finger exactly on what the steps are for those, but they're
but those are very good. I think those are incredibly pragmatic visualizations of what you want to do and where you want to be. I think that's wonderful. It's awesome. And man, question. Okay. And then it's two. So, all right. So you want to go to where in the States do you want to check out? Like, where, because the States are so big and like, what are there specific places that you're like, oh my God, I got to go there. Like,
well, I definitely want to go to Mississippi, to the Delta.
Right.
And I love it. I just, I feel like I've got to like listen to so much blues. I just feel like I need to go to where it started. I don't know what was there, if you can still like what goes on there now, but I'd love that. And especially kind of north, I think there's North Hill, kind of hill country. I love a lot of the North Mississippi hill country blues. Then definitely New Orleans. I'd have to go check that out. And Texas. Big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, so I've got to go to Texas.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and probably end up in Chicago.
Of course.
We've got to go
I used to
Chicago.
live in Chicago. I lived there for
Really?
3 years.
Cool.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I lived right next to Buddy Guy's. You know, Buddy Guy?
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the club. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it plays.
Amazing.
I'm not a blues person. I mean, I have respect for the blues. I'm not versed in the blues like you are. But yeah, the live music every night, Buddy Guys. There was always Pat walking by when I was walking to and from my apartment. And they always had, I mean, Buddy Guy wasn't always there, but that was Buddy Guy's joint. And he was, you know, there was always stuff going on. So yeah. But yeah, no, that's you know, those are not the answers that I typically would expect at all from, you know, someone from New Zealand. So I think that's cool. And here's another, you know, here's another interesting observation as you're saying that. I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm thinking vicariously when I hear you talk. That's what I'm thinking. You know what's interesting? Like, I feel like you would be such a splash in a place like Mississippi. Because here's the thing, and this is what I've learned from touring with musicians, you know, and learning some about, like, you know, I know a lot of indie musicians in the States and how they sort of operate and route and tour and things. And what's interesting is the markets where you're going to have, if you're an indie band, where you're going to have a bigger turnout are not the major cities. It's more of the rural or places that are not major markets, where you're not, there's less, it's cheaper, there's less overhead, and B, there's not as much going on. There's less to compete with. And so what you end up doing is you create a sort of a place, a scene, a thing where where people are coming to see you, or curious, or more curious. It's easier to push through, as you were talking about, the noise, right? The noise. How interesting would it be if you did somehow end up down there and it's like kind of like a New Zealander fish out of water? It's like this New
Come and
Zealand
see this
band.
New Zealand
Yeah, there's like this
trout.
like this New Zealand blues act that's like, you know, doing a residency somewhere, like, you know, this Mississippi club, like, you know, that is interesting. And here's the thing, like, that's how you get, like, really sort of, I feel like that's how you create buzz. Like, that's how you create like sort of a vibe about yourself. It's like, you know, even if you're not into Matisse Yahoo, who actually grew up right down over here, he is a fish head. Are you familiar with Matisse Yahoo at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Matisse Yahoo, it's worth checking out, especially if you like reggae music. I love reggae. Okay, so he was a fish head turned Hasidic Jew.
Wow.
Who then started performing reggae. So he's dressed in the whole, you know, as I, fellow Jew, Reformed Jew, we call them either Hasidic, or I call them black hats. I think that might be pejorative. You might not want to say that. I can say that. You might not want to say that. But with a full beard and everything, but he's doing reggae. And it's like, whoa. It's like a weird sort of thing. It's like a juxtaposition of two things that you don't see every day. And I feel like on some level, and I'm reeling, just thinking about, like, you know, your situation. It's like New Zealand, you know, like blues based band, you know, cutting teeth in the Mississippi Delta is like, that's like the Beatles in Hamburg. You know, the Beatles went to Hamburg. They're in the Reeperbahn district, and they're just cutting teeth, playing 3 sets a night. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And just getting those hours in. And it's like, man, you know, and the thing too is, it's like if you try to do that in New York, it'd be 1,000 times harder.
Yeah.
Right. On some level. So I don't know, that was very interesting that you said that.
Cool.
I thought.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm going to think about that, because Yeah. I mean, that
You
sounds
should.
amazing.
I mean, think about
Totally.
it. Like literally think about that for a second. Like you're talking about like all the different things that you your long-term goals or goals that you have for yourself.
Mhm.
But like, what about like, if you did, I don't know what the visa process is, but it's like,
Mm.
you get your record together, you get a visa, and you do, one of those things. Like a great example, when Nick Cave moved from Australia to
Mm.
England, and I think they were doing the Boys Next Door in England and not Australia.
I can't remember, but yeah, I believe
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Well, you get a lot of Australians going
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
right?
For
Like that's
sure.
like a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And part of that I think has to do with commerce and stuff.
Yeah.
So when break out of that the New
Yeah.
Zealand shelf, and you come over to America, that's where you should be like set up your like tent, man, and like just like get yourself out there. I think that would be like really rad. I don't know. I'm getting really stoked. I'm getting stoked on the idea.
Cool.
It's not,
That's great.
yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
do you think, I don't
So
know, do you think Americans like, do you think they're quite open to, because obviously it's American music and it's, Black American music, and I want to be respectful of where it comes from. And yeah, do you think there's an openness to people from the outside coming in and doing something like that? Or is it,
so
it's
I
a bit,
think listen, I would be a fucking liar if I pretended like I actually knew. I
mm,
can only
mm,
surmise.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
take what I
I'm
say
here.
with take what I say with a grain of salt. But
Mm,
here's my thought. I'm going to say several things right now on that, what you
mm,
just said, because what you said is sort of interesting. Here's the thing in relation to music, and this is my own personal opinion, and I'm very
mm,
opinionated about it, but personally, and it's just my own personal opinion, but this is how I
mm,
feel in regards to it.
mm,
What you just described, and I don't want to sound like I'm putting words in your mouth, because I'm
mm,
just saying what it sounds like. Not, you did not say this. I'm saying what it sounds like.
mm,
What you said reminds me of this sort of notion of trying to be um respectful of what could be considered some form of cultural appropriation or music
mm,
appropriation. And here's the thing about music. I don't believe that I rail against this concept personally.
mm,
I rail against this concept because the thing about art and music in particular, it is not something that a culture particularly gets to keep. They may create it, but once it is out into the world, it is
mm,
open to others to then take it and run with it and do their own thing with it, especially if it's being done with great love and respect and honor, and it's not being done in an exploitative way, which totally can happen. Um,
mm,
and I'm reminded there's so many friggin' different times where if that hadn't been the case, then we would not have gotten any of the music that has come to exist. If people respected, or not respected, if people obeyed such, arbitrary rules that just
mm,
don't really make sense. Great example. You have rock and roll music that develops in America in the 50s.
mm,
What happens to that music after World War II? You have all the soldiers, all the English soldiers are bringing back records, rhythm and blues. They're bringing back all these records to England, to places like Liverpool, whatever,
mm,
ports, this, that, and the other. These kids who grew up as teenagers in the late 50s in England, they are listening to that music and then
mm.
making their own music based on that music. And then what do? They bring it back
Take
to
it back.
America. They
Yeah,
take it
yeah.
back. And so what you're doing is every time somebody listens to your music, I think personally, I think people are like, they're like transistors. The music
Mm.
goes in one ear, and then what you express may be influenced by whatever it
Mm.
is that you're hearing, but comes out completely differently. Perfect example of this, the Ramones. The The Ramones listened to the Ronettes, they listened to the Beach Boys, and they listened to the Stooges. And what comes out of that? The Ramones. That doesn't sound anything like, I mean, it sounds like the Beach Boys, but it also doesn't sound like the Beach Boys at all. Another example, the Stooges, particularly Iggy Pop, he's playing in a blues band in Chicago, surrounded by, you know, all these old, you know, these seasoned black blues guys, like all these people. He decides this is how punk rock is essentially formed, or the idea of like the proto punk, whatever. Historically, when you retroactively look back, he says, I wanted to bring blues to white teenagers. You heard him say that, right?
I heard him say that. Yeah.
So when you listen, have you ever listened to Funhouse out of curiosity?
No, not that one. No.
Okay, put that on your list. Please write that down. You have to listen to Funhouse, especially because you like the blues. And this is, if you listen to this record as here's a bunch of like fucked up like 20 somethings from Ann Arbor, Michigan, who've been exposed, trying to play the blues. That's what it is. That's literally what it is. They are exposed to the blues, because what is ultimately the blues about on some level? I mean, well, historically, and it's very, you know, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of sensitivity. I don't even want to necessarily try and verbalize it off the top of my head, because I might say something that's wrong. But the blues essentially is angst, right? On some deep intrinsic level, it's angst. So it's like he wants to take black angst and sort of translate it and put it out, and that somehow turns into, you know, some of the first modern punk rock in a weird kind of way, although you could really just say that all rock and roll is punk rock if you want to go get really technical. But the point being is that music gets ingested by people from all over and then interpret it. It's like, yes, we like can copyright songs, and yes, we can own music, but at the same time, once you put music out there, you're putting it out there for people to be inspired by it and turn it into something else. A great example, look at reggae music and music that was coming out of Jamaica, and this idea, and I'm going to butcher this with my friggin', you know, my white ass is going to butcher this right now. It's the rhythm, which is, you have all these beats and rhythms that basically get borrowed over and over again. They're not copyrighted. And when you look at like dance hall, and you look at all these different reggae musics, some of them are using, like a great example, Madness, One Step Beyond. Another great example, Jamaican records going to England in the late 70s. And then all of a sudden you have bands like Madness doing the second wave of ska. That's all white. I mean, it's not all white dudes, but like, you know, the Specials were black, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's getting it's getting ingested and turned around. And so the idea, to bring this all around, to bring this back to the beginning of what we were talking about, the idea of you being so influenced by like the blues in your way and making your music, and then going to the birthplace of the blues, or one of the birthplaces of the blues, and sort of doing blues music, like, you know, fish out of water style, is fascinating. It's interesting. It pushes you up above the noise. It's, what is this New Zealander doing in the friggin' Mississippi Delta playing blues? It's not something you hear every day, but it's that's your thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think. So to answer your question in a super long-winded, over-talking sort of way, the answer is no. I think it would be embraced. And I don't think it's possible. Like your concerns, I don't think they're possible, because you love this music, you respect this music, you honor this music, and you are expressing this music through your own prism, which is your own truth. And there's nothing that's infallible. Nothing can break that. That's my 2 cents. So
thanks, mate. That's really
oh boy. Friggin' my alarm actually just went off. It is like fucking early as fuck here. I just want to let you know, I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to do this today.
I thought you were in the UK. That's why
No,
I thought.
no,
That's
nope,
why I said this time, because I was
nope,
like, oh, you'll sleep in. That will
no,
be
no,
nice.
no, no. It's not.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know what? No, don't apologize. Again, I Jazz is awesome. I know you know Jazz she's
Yeah,
awesome. And I really wanted I was listening to your music and I really wanted to, meet you and speak with you and put you on my channel. And I have a more punk rock channel, but like I think, people love like interesting, unique perspectives. And I just wanted to, see what it was all about. So, it's cool. Really enjoyed this transcontinental experience of speaking with someone who is in the future, 24
yeah,
hours ahead, right? 24 hours, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Close.
Rad.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool. That's cool.
yeah.
So I am I'm gonna put a pin in that. But
The bed. Yeah.
we'll have all your links and stuff down in the description. I mean, everybody
Cool.
should check out Ingrid and the Minister. Subscribe on YouTube and Insta, and this will be on Spotify as well. We'll make it very
Yeah.
searchable, that
Cool.
sort of thing.
Awesome.
So when you pop up, this our conversation will pop up when people search you. So that's good.
Oh, brilliant. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah.
As
That's part of the commerce, It's part
yes,
of the
it is. It
part of the
is.
game.
So where right now, what is the best way that you want people to listen to your music?
Great question. I'd say Spotify and YouTube. They're the
Yeah,
two. Check out the music videos because they're really
right.
fun. But yeah, check it and save it in your Spotify playlists, and yeah, that'd be great.
Do you think last question for you? How do you personally feel about Spotify? I know this is like a hot button topic for
Yeah.
musicians. What is your personal, do you think it's like a necessary evil, even if it's not paying enough and this, that, and the other? Like, what do you think about Spotify personally?
Yeah, I'm torn, and I think I've kind of resisted making or figuring out what my opinion is about it because
Okay.
because in a way it's been great for us. It has enabled us to reach heaps of people, like, and to reach a lot of an American audience as well. We've had a track that a lot of people in the US heard about, and they've been able to access it that way, and that that's been fantastic because it hasn't brought we haven't earned much from it, but it has really helped with other things, with getting funding from the state here to make music videos and all that. It's been really helpful. But I definitely think they should just pay artists more simply. That's the biggest thing. They don't need to take the share of profits that they do. But yeah, and also I don't know, I have discovered some people through the algorithm that I'm
I
definitely
discovered a lot of people.
That I think great. So I could it has worked a lot for us, but I agree there are problems as well.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's always the way it is.
Yeah.
We will there's my next alarm. Okay, we're gonna say goodbye. Wait, don't go anywhere. Hold on. This is just for the recording. We're gonna say goodbye to Ingrid and the Ministers. I really truly hope that Ingrid does make it to, not only does she make it to America with her band or her the whatever form Ingrid and the Ministers is. I hope she makes it to America, and I really hope that she establishes herself in the Mississippi Delta, where everybody's like, whoa, is this New Zealand person playing friggin' music? This is crazy. What? Like blues music? What? Like what? And does stuff. So I think that'd be great. Peace.
Thanks.
Hair grease. We'll see you next time. That's what we say. Peace and hair grease. Yeah.